All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Excellent. It's awesome to be here. I want to say thank you guys very much for sticking around and listening to me. I'm going to apologize in advance. My Hebrew is, I've been here since Friday, I've learned one word, todah.
That's the wrong word.
That's not one word. All right, so I've learned two words.
No, it's the wrong one.
Oh, it's the wrong
You should
one.
learn a curse word or something.
Oh, well, I'll learn those after this session. How's that? So, I'm going to just apologize. If I repeat anything that was said earlier, just sort of, maybe just usher me along a little bit. So my name's Pete LePage. I'm one of the product managers on the Internet Explorer team back in Redmond. And it's super exciting to be here because I get to talk about Internet Explorer 9 and the work we've done. I've been on the IE team since just about 2 months before we shipped Internet Explorer 7. So I can take absolutely zero responsibility for Internet Explorer 6. But it also means that I take a little bit of responsibility for Internet Explorer 7 and 8. But I think if you look at where the browsers have come from, what we've done over the last couple of years, we've actually made a lot of great progress. And Internet Explorer 9 is a browser that is really very promising and really exciting. I'm curious, before I actually start going into this stuff, how many people have installed either the platform preview or the beta? Awesome. That's actually a really good number. I'm excited and happy to see that. If you haven't tried it yet, go try Platform Preview 7. It'll install side by side on your Windows PC. If you're not running Windows, you can set it up in a virtualized machine somehow. You can either use Parallels or whatever environment you want. The one thing that you don't get, and I'll talk about that in a little while, is hardware acceleration. So you're going to miss out on some of the speed improvements if you're not actually running on Windows. But the browser's actually, it's pretty awesome. So let's dive in and talk.
Is the platform preview 7 more advanced than the beta?
Yes. So that's a great question, and I'll answer that. I'll come and I'll talk about the platform previews versus the betas and what you can expect and how they're different in a moment. So what I'm going to talk about today is sort of the web and Windows. Why we build Internet Explorer in the first place instead of saying, heck, let's just ship some other browser and call it good, right? So why we build Internet Explorer, why we want our customers and our people who are using it, i.e. our users, to really have a great experience. I'll talk about the theater versus the play. So some of the design concepts and some of the concepts that we use in creating Internet Explorer 9. So why did we change the things we did? Why did we go with certain design principles? Then we'll take a look at some of the new things in Internet Explorer 9, both from the developer standpoint as well as the consumer standpoint, so things that you can expect as developers, things that you can expect as consumers. And we'll talk about HTML5 and CSS3. I'm going to be a little bit brave. We're going to pull up Visual Studio and we'll do some live coding fun. So that's always a little challenge. So that's what we're going to go for. So as we started looking at the browser and thinking about why we build Internet Explorer 9, Internet Explorer 9 is and Internet Explorer is really about making sure that Windows customers have a really fantastic experience surfing the web, right? People spend about 57% of their time on their PC surfing on the web. We're probably in this room just a little bit different from that, and our number's probably up at about 97, right? But like, if you think of the average user, the information worker, the person sitting at their office doing, email and Word and Excel, that kind of stuff, they're spending almost 60% of their time in their browser. So there's a lot of times in the browser. We want to make sure that that experience is great for them, that they have a really good experience. And expectations are rising. Like we saw the slides earlier that were sort of talking about, wow, the web in 2001. Like if you actually start looking back even further than that, when the web, when IE6 shipped, which was almost 10 years ago now, it was 2001, right? The web was all about consumption. You couldn't really interact with it. You couldn't go and provide feedback or anything like that. And at the time, Internet Explorer, when it shipped, was the most standards compliant browser of all of the browsers available 10 years ago. Okay? Maybe not so much anymore, but at the time it was really great. And for the stuff that, as web developers, we were building on the web, it worked really well. Like, we didn't have complex JavaScript. We didn't have complex images. We didn't have lots of interactivity. All right? But as things have moved forward, we've gotten much more interactivity. We've gotten things that are more complex. You know, so the last couple of years, we've seen video online, the sites are getting much more interactive. And as the web continues to grow, we expect that to keep going. Sites to get more interactive, sites to get richer. I've got PhotoSynth up there. If you've played with PhotoSynth, super cool application that allows you to say, hey, I want to go see all the pictures of X. And it goes and it grabs all pictures taken by all sorts of different people and builds up this virtual world, overlaying the photos together so that you can turn around, you can look up, you can look down, you can walk forward in this web space without actually being there. And all of that is built on the web, and things are going to keep going in that way. Those webs, so these apps are all about being immersive. They're all about being fast, right? Like, you expect applications that you're running on your desktop to be fast, but stuff on the web isn't always as fast as we like. Even in, you know, browsers that are considered fast, you're still waiting around for things to happen. Focused, right? The apps that we go to are really about doing certain things. It's not about going and being like, hey, I'm going to go just do everything in one place. It's really about the focus of a single app. Clean. Just getting out of the way and letting me do the things that I want. And consistent, right? So that I can do the things that I want to do. Things work. It's safe. It's secure. I don't have to worry about my data, right? Like, I don't want to have to think about where my data is going, who's getting my data. I just want that to be safe. One of the things we were talking about earlier, geolocation, right? That's a really interesting concept. And I'm really excited about geolocation, but I'm also a little bit worried about it. Because, wow, if I have to get asked for every site, every time it wants to know my location, that's going to get really annoying. Hello, UAC, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want, right? Like, we've even seen TV commercials about that particular Windows feature. Do you want that on the web? So we need to make sure that as we're thinking about these, both as web developers building sites, but as well as browser vendors who are building browsers, how do we deal with those security issues to make sure that we've got a great, consistent story? So we ask ourselves, like, how do we make sure that the web becomes more app-like? How do we make sure that these things happen? And so that's why we started, that's the design principle that we started working on with Internet Explorer 9. Enabling what we experience and how we experience it. Not so much the web in terms of the browser, but making sure that the sites come through. And people have lots of choices, right? Like, it's not like 3 years ago when you had your choice of Internet Explorer or Firefox. Now you've got your choice of lots of different browsers, and there's always more that are available, and they're all shipping on a regular basis. So Internet Explorer 9, we really think of the browser as the theater, not the play. I was talking earlier with some folks, and we were talking about Avenue Q, right? Like, you're going to go see Avenue Q because it's a fun play. You're not going to go see Avenue Q because you heard the theater is really cool, right? You're going to go surf the web because you like the sites you're going to, not because the browser's this really fun application. Who gives a, you know, the browser isn't the big piece, it's the sites, and we want to make sure that you've got a great experience within those sites. So the browser is absolutely important, but more important are your sites. So as we start to think about this, for apps to become, or for websites to become more app-like, we want to make sure they're fast today. They're fast tomorrow. Not just in benchmarks, but in real-world experience, right? So if you go look at SunSpider numbers, or you go check in and see how fast your application works just in the real world, both of those are important. We want to deliver an experience that's about your site so that you have the opportunity to really go and have your site shine and that your site is the focus. Making sure that we protect our users. super important for everybody. Like all the browser vendors are really concerned about this. But this is really important. And enabling same markup so that the code that you write, the code that I write as a web developer, works in all browsers. I don't want to have to go special case stuff. I don't want to have to say, oh, well, this browser does this browser does this, or this browser's got not a great implementation of this, so I got to work around it because I got to do something else because I want a quality implementation. I'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But those are the app-like experiences that we think browsers need to do. And that's how we started thinking about Internet Explorer 9. Right? So, Internet Explorer 9, I'll say these real fast because you guys don't really need the marketing message here. But Internet Explorer 9, fast, clean, trusted, interoperable. All right, I'm done there. So what does it actually mean? All right, because I think this is where we get into some of the cool stuff. How many people have looked at the SunSpider benchmark results? A couple of folks. So the SunSpider benchmark is a JavaScript benchmark that measures the speed of JavaScript. Now, the one thing that it does is it measures the speed of JavaScript without manipulating the DOM. How many of you have ever written any JavaScript that doesn't do any DOM manipulation at all? Right, so not a lot of people. Most people, when you're writing JavaScript, it's going to manipulate the DOM at least a little bit, right? So it's not a very good real-world test. It's great in that it goes, okay, here's how fast your JavaScript is. But let's have a look at something. So that really big, large number on the left, that's the Internet Explorer 8 JavaScript SunSpider result. Up at about 3,800 milliseconds. All right. As we go across, I know these are kind of small. I've got Firefox 363 or 3612, Safari 5, Firefox 4 pre-release. So this is beta 7, Chrome 7, Opera 10.6.3, Opera 11, Chrome 8 beta. And that one on the far right, the smallest one over there, is the brand new JavaScript engine from Platform Preview 7. So Internet Explorer 9 Platform Preview 7 is the fastest JavaScript engine right now, according to the SunSpider benchmarks.
And the 8 is the slowest.
And the 8 is the slowest. Well, that's Internet Explorer 8. This is Internet Explorer 9. Now, you asked about, Platform Preview 7. Is that the latest? At Mix this year, we kind of changed the way that we started talking to developers. Instead of saying, hey guys, here's a beta that we did with IE8, we said, well, let's make platform previews available. And the platform previews are actually a really great way for you to go download the browser. You can install it side by side with your existing IE installation. And it gives you the entire browser platform, right? All the rendering engine, the JavaScript, all that kind of stuff, without actually having to go and install another browser. All right, so you can go test and play without having to worry about anything else. In fact,
Does it have the previous 7 as the interface also?
so here's IE 9 Platform Preview 7. All right, it doesn't have a browser frame around it. There's no address bar. There's no back and forward button. It's meant for you guys to go play with and test, and not really meant as a browser to go use as your day-to-day browser. If you want to go to a page, you can hit Control-O, or you can go File, Open, and you can type any URL in there. So I can say ietestdrive.com, right? And I can pull up the test drive site. So I can go to any sites I want, but it gives me an experience that is just for this. Then back September 15th, we released the beta. And just today, we announced the beta has had 15 million downloads in the first, September, so October, November, and 2 weeks, so 10 weeks? We've had 15 million downloads of the beta, which is absolutely fantastic. That's super exciting. It shows that people are really excited about the beta, and they're using it, and they're trying it. And we've seen a great amount of people using it and excited about it. So we've got a brand new JavaScript engine. This brand new JavaScript engine, it's kind of hard to show this one in any real way, but instead of just interpreting the code, it actually compiles the code. And we get really smart about what's in your computer. Most PCs today have multiple cores. So why don't we go, as soon as we've got all your code downloaded, use one of the other cores in your computer, compile it over here while we're still interpreting it over here. So we start by interpreting it. As soon as we've got it interpreted, we can switch to the compiled code. Which one runs faster? Compiled code always wins. Right? So we can switch between the two dynamically. So if you say, hey, you need some new code, we'll start interpreting that right away and then switch to the appropriate thing. We've done a lot of layout and let me try that one again. Layout optimizations and a bunch of other stuff that help make the browser faster. But the other thing that we've done, is hardware acceleration. You've probably heard a lot about hardware acceleration these days. This is one of the things that I think is most exciting and a really innovative thing to come out of the Internet Explorer team. Hardware acceleration means anything that we're putting on the screen is using hardware acceleration. It's going through the GPU to get onto the screen. Now, let me pull up the platform preview again. So I'm running this. Helps if I go over here. All right. So this, I'm just running this off my local machine right now, but you can try this in any browser you want if you go to ietestdrive.com and then click on the fish tank. All right. So on this, I've got 20 fish that are drawing and moving around my screen. This is a Canvas demo, so it's using HTML5 and Canvas. Each of those, we've got an image sprite that is 6 of those fish. We're using the image sprite. We're moving that around in memory to animate the fish's tail so that you get the little, waggling tail. And then we just move and draw multiple fish on screen, move them around, use scaling to make them bigger and smaller. So at 20 fish, I'm running at 60 frames per second. Go up to 50 fish. Notice that frames per second thing doesn't move, right? Like it just stays there. 100 fish, doesn't move, we're still going. 250 fish. All right, my number just dropped. I've been having some problems with this computer. I'm going to start this guy over again. So one thing to keep in mind, this is still beta for a reason. And every once in a while you'll run into some things. All right, so let's go back up to 250 fish, right? Number, at that point the number starts moving around. At 250 fish, on average, I've been getting about 40 frames per second. 40 frames per second. I'm going to kill mail just in case. There we go. So we're back up, right? All right. So if I try that same thing in Chrome, so again, I'm just running this off my local machine just so that I don't have to worry about any network connections or anything like that. Chrome opens the page. It's kind of. Wow, 23, 29, okay, 50, 23, 24. I don't see any fish. I don't know about you guys. Maybe they're kind of hiding. Oh, there's one. Aw, isn't that cute? Right, like I'm not even at more than 20 fish and already my numbers are way down. So because Chrome is using the CPU to do all of these image manipulations, right? CPU is not designed to handle graphics. It knows how to, and it can, but it's not optimized for that, right? Like, as developers, actually, how many people in the room consider themselves developers? How many people consider themselves designers? All right, that's about what I was kind of thinking. As web developers, we're great at optimizing and making stuff run well. So why not be smart about doing that? One of the other cool things that you get with hardware acceleration, because we hardware accelerate everything. This is running, so I've got IE9 beta up and running. I'm going to show this guy. So one of the things that we do is because we're using hardware acceleration to put everything on screen, whether that's a canvas image, an SVG graphic, whether it's text, a ping, a div, whatever, we're using the direct 2D read and write APIs that come in Windows 7 and Vista. Well, it's really smart about drawing text on the page. I want you to take a look at the serifs. So like the little bit on the B, the little bit on the P, the little bit on the I. and have a look at the smoothness and the quality on those. All right, because it's using the Direct2D read and write APIs, it does something called sub-pixel layout, which means instead of drawing a hard line, it'll use soft colors. So it might do a gray or something like that so that the lines look much smoother. If I try that same thing in Chrome, run it off my local tick size animated, going to go up to the large font size. Look how much more pixelated that looks. Look how much more jagged it looks. And one of the things that I found in my experience in the last little while and looking at multiple devices, mobile phones, that kind of stuff, the higher the quality of the font, the better I enjoy using the device, right? A little while ago, a company who makes some phones made a really big deal about their image or their display, right? So this is actually a fairly big thing. Having high quality text is really important. So by having high quality text means as you're sitting there reading whatever newspaper you're reading, whatever blog you're reading, anything like that, you've got a nicer experience. In fact, one of the cool things you can do with this, so this, when I click animate font size, we're going to just use JavaScript to make the font bigger by ½ a point each time, right? It's chunky, it's not very smooth, you get the right? Now, probably something you're not going to do very often, but you know, you might. Sub-pixel layout means that becomes really smooth, because we can fit the fonts between pixels. Get a much smoother, much nicer experience than you do any other way. In fact, all right. So the hardware acceleration is going to mean that anything you're putting on screen now, whether that's, I mentioned earlier, you know, Canvas and SVG and text, but that also means HTML4. So the pages that you've written today that are HTML4 are all going to run faster because of hardware acceleration. You're going to get a better experience in Internet Explorer 9, whether you're writing new and cool websites that take advantage of some of the HTML5 and CSS3 stuff, or whether you're just using sites that you've built, you know, 6 months ago or 12 months ago, or hopefully maybe not 10 years ago in the IE6 timeframe, but I know those sites are still out there. So making the browser fast. The next thing we did was really focus on making the browser clean and making sure that the browser gets out of the way so that the sites that you're going to, you can have a really great experience there. We used a lot of the Windows 7 design principles. So if you've used Windows 7 and you're like, wow, it just seems like things are smoother than this stuff, right? We used a lot of those same design principles in Internet Explorer 9 that we used in Windows 7. So I'll bring up IE here. So I'll talk about a couple of things. One, the browser just gets out of the way, so there's a lot more screen real estate for you, right? You know, in the past, so personally, I really like my favorites bar turned on. I'm the kind of guy who uses his favorites bar a lot. By default, it's turned off, right? So you've got a lot more screen real estate up here. We put the address bar, which we now call the one box, and the tabs on the same line, all right? When we looked at how people are using their browser, one of the things that really surprised us is most people don't ever have more than 4 tabs open, all right? Now, I know the folks in this room are probably a little bit different, and we probably have a few more than 4 tabs open at any given time.
40 tabs.
But like seriously, I want to say it's about 8% of people have more than 4 tabs open ever. Right? Like it's that small. 8% of people have more than 4 tabs, have ever opened more than 4 tabs. Right? So like think about folks like your siblings, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your parents. They're probably just surfing around the web, unless they work in the same industry as we do. They're probably just like 1 or 2 tabs, and that's about it. So we wanted to give folks more screen real estate. We also wanted to go through, and I'm just, I'm going to turn the search suggestions off. We also merged the search box and the address bar, and we called it the one box. all right? And it does a couple of things. One, as I start typing in here, it pulls a couple of things up. So first of all, it's going to pull up stuff from my history. It pulls up sites from my favorites bar. So if you don't want your favorites bar visible, but you want to be able to still get to your sites, you can do that. They're right there. But the other thing we do is we offer search suggestions. But by default, it's turned off because we want to respect your privacy. We want you to consciously make that decision that you're willing to send your keystrokes to your search provider, whichever search provider you want to use. All right? So by default, it's turned off. You can turn it on just like that. So one quick keystroke and it's turned on. You want to turn it back off? All right, there you go. It's turned off. So quickly and easily, you can turn your search suggestions on and off without having to go anywhere else.
Can I make it Google's?
You absolutely can make it Google's. Yep. I use Bing because, well, you know, I gotta pay my mortgage somehow, right? Like, they don't like it when I get up here and show Google very much for some strange odd reason. So we've done that. I talked about quite a bit about the fact that, you know, the favorites bar is gone. One of the things that really surprised us was how folks said, hey, you know, I like to be able to pin my applications to my taskbar, right? In fact, I can pin Outlook to my taskbar. Why can't I pin my websites to my taskbar? And so we actually started thinking about that. So yeah, that's a very good idea, and decided that we should allow people to be able to pin sites and applications to their taskbar. Well, if we do that, we should really give the same experience as we have for other things where, hey, I can see, and if I right-click on Outlook, I can see, or not Outlook, in PowerPoint, I can see recent, right? Or in IE, I've got multiple things in here. I should be able to do that with web applications as well. So I'm going to go to Facebook, and good, I did leave myself logged out. I've done this before and had my friends have some not so work-appropriate posts as I pull up Facebook in front of a large audience. If you're ever doing a demonstration, just make sure you log out of Facebook or whatever websites you're going to demo, because it gets really embarrassing really fast. So I've got a demo account for exactly that reason. I've got like 3 friends on it. Notice one of the things that we've gone and done is the gold bar up top is gone. We put this guy down here. We moved the notification bar down to the bottom so it's out of the way. You can still keep surfing. You can go get rid of this. Now, we've allowed Facebook to be pinned. So I'm going to go and I'm going to drag this down. That's a great picture of my boss, by the way. Like the guy with the blue beanie in the middle there, that's my boss. All right. So I just pinned Facebook to my taskbar. You'll notice a couple of things happened, right? Opened up in a new window. The back and forward button picked up the same colors as the favorite icon, right? Instead of having the home button over here, I actually have the Facebook icon from the fave icon. All we're doing is grabbing the fave icon and we're putting it over there, all right? Now, cool, okay, kind of neat, but notice also down here, there's a little star next to this on my Facebook icon. Facebook can provide notifications to me. So as I'm surfing around the web, and I go somewhere else, hey, maybe I'm working in Excel or PowerPoint, or I'm using that complex application Solitaire, right? If an application needs my attention, it can provide a notification to me, all right? What I'm going to do is go through a bunch of stuff, and then I'm going to come back in a little bit and do some of the demos, the code stuff. This will work on any website that you've built today. The only thing that you need to do to make the site pinnable, at the minimum, is have a favorite icon, and even then you don't technically need a favorite icon if you're happy with the little blue E, all right? Ideally, you probably want a favorite icon. It picks up the back and forward button colors from your favorite icon, though you can specify that if you want. And I'll go into some of the other stuff. But, you know, wouldn't it be great if I could right-click on here and say, hey, I want to go see my news? How many people have used Zap here in Israel, zap.co.il, right? They went and created a really awesome pin site experience. I'd recommend trying it out. I'm going to do super quick. I think it's ia9.zap.co.il.
Double A. Okay.
All right. So I go pin this to my taskbar. It didn't grab the favorite icon, I think, because I just did it too quickly before it had a chance to download it. But, all right. So I can go through, I can click on something here, and I'm doing this only because I've seen Guy do it like 3 times in the last couple days. I think we go here, and notice I've got a bunch of taskbar buttons on the bottom. I can go add this to my favorites. I can right click on here, and I can see the recent items. So you can dynamically add items to your favorites. You can go do this. All of this will work with the websites that you've created today that are standards-based. To get these things to happen, it's a couple of lines of JavaScript that you can put off in its own little library, right? You can do feature detection. Hey, does this browser support site mode? Great, go do these things. If you don't, fine, no worries. Don't worry about it. All right. We also did a lot of work to make the browser safer, right? So I talked about how we give give users more choice and privacy. All right, so I talked about how you can, the one box where your search options are protected. But one of the other things that we've gone and done is create a new feature called application reputation. How many folks are familiar with the smart screen filter? It's the malware and phishing protection in Internet Explorer 8. All right, how many people, I assume you're familiar with malware and phishing protection in all of the other browsers, right? Well, so we looked at a couple of things. One, we hire a third-party company and we say, hey guys, we want to know how effective our smart screen filter is. For the most part, we want to know from an engineering standpoint so that we know what percentage we're protecting people from so that we can figure out where we're not protecting people and do better. But the results came out really actually kind of good. Internet Explorer protects about 85% of malware attacks. So if you're surfing around the web and it says, hey, click here to see the dancing monkeys and you got to install this Flash version 14, we're in this room probably smart enough to go, Flash version 14, yeah, I don't think so. But your family probably is not. And they're going to want to see the dancing monkeys, aren't they? Right? Like, everybody wants to see the dancing monkeys. Well, you see the dancing monkeys, and sure enough, you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. So we block phishing and malware. Yeah, question?
How many false positives?
False positives, that's a wonderful question. Very, very, very few. We are super conscious about them. I don't have numbers to share with you, but I'm on the internal alias that I've seen, you know, when they come in, and the number that I've seen come in is infinitesimally tiny. Because you can imagine if we block your site and you're making money and we say, oh, your site's a phishing site, you're going to come and you're going to be a little mad at us, right? So we want to make sure that they are actual phishing and malware sites. I completely forgot to give away these t-shirts this morning, so I'm going to remember to give them away now. I love these t-shirts, right? So, for a good question, thanks, sir. All right, so one of the things that we've added with the phishing and malware protection, we know about the bad stuff on the web, right? So that's the malware and all that kind of stuff. But we also know about the good stuff on the web. And with application reputation, we actually say, hey, we know this file to be good. You're downloading it from Microsoft. You're downloading it from Google. You're downloading it from CNET. You're downloading it from some safe place. Maybe you're downloading it from Quicken, whatever company you're downloading it from. It's been signed. It's been downloaded many times. So we know about all the stuff that's good. We know about all the stuff that's bad. The stuff in the middle is actually very, very small. So wouldn't it be great if we said, hey, everything that's good, we're just going to let you download it. We're not even going to say a thing. Because remember in IE 8 or 7, when you tried to download a file, it said, warning, files from the internet could be harmful or dangerous and harm your computer, right? We know what that means, but, you know, ask my mom. She's going to be like, huh, whatever, run, right? With application reputation, she goes, oh, this file hasn't been downloaded very often. I should be worried about this? Oh, okay. Maybe I won't actually use it. So we've created this new feature that helps protect users from the bad stuff that's on the internet.
How do you gather the statistics?
Great question. How do we gather the statistics? I am going to remember them. So who asked that? All right, there you go.
I think an answer is this one, sure.
There you go. So by subscribing and using the Smart Screen service, you're sending us anonymous data that we collect and completely anonymize to know what files people are downloading and using.
So I have to approve it?
Sorry?
I have to approve it when I install the browser?
Yeah, so you need to turn it on. Now, one really interesting thing, this kind of amazed me when I first heard about this. Now you can imagine the Bing team would love this information, where people are going, even anonymized. It's one of those things, like it would be a gold mine to know what sites are popular, what sites are useful. It'd be one of those things that would make Bing a fantastic search engine. Yeah, they can't have it. The data is purely used to know what files are good, what sites are using, purely from a safety and security point of view. Because if we used it for any type of commercial purpose, the number of people who would be willing to share that information would go down. It's really important that you feel confident that we're not using your data for bad purposes or for commercial or anything like that. So we want to make sure that all of the stuff that you're using and we're getting from you is coming in and being used responsibly. So application reputation. Oh, yay. All right, like I said, it's beta. Right?
Regarding that, if I find bugs, I should now
Great question.
also check on it for they check it also on the platform preview 7?
Yeah,
Before I send it?
if you're using the browser and you're using IE9 beta and you find something that you're like, hey, I think there's a bug here, if you can, go give it a try in Platform Preview 7. If you don't feel like giving it a try in Platform Preview 7, please just go file it on connect.microsoft.com. We need to know about those bugs, right? Like, the thing about building a web platform is that you can run a lot of tests. But you guys, 1 million people writing 1 million lines of code is going to be a heck of a lot more testing than what the entire IE test team can do. And we can do a lot of testing. We got a lot of people on our test team, but we need more. So we need you to help us understand.
How much do you do right-to-left testing? Because I found I opened a lot of bugs about that. So.
Yep, keep opening those bugs. I went through and on, I think Monday, I did a quick search through the Connect database to see how many bugs we had. There were about 34 bugs that had been filed with the word Hebrew in it. We do a fair bit of testing. That's 32 of several thousand, right? So the number there is fairly small. We do a lot of testing of all sorts of different languages. Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of testing of all of the languages and all that in the complexities. But there are issues there, right? When you have developers who are right to left based, you know, sometimes they don't think about those things. Sometimes test doesn't think about those things. So we do have a team of folks who do know about right to left and how to test it. But we need you guys to help too. Yeah?
Are you planning to release more new versions? I mean, Chrome has every few weeks a new version.
There you go. All right, so I'll answer this question in 1 second. I just want to point this out real quick. This program is not commonly downloaded and can harm your computer, right? The new download manager in Internet Explorer 9, so I can say actions, delete, recommended, or run anyways, right? Like, so it's pretty clear to me. In terms of releasing more versions and more often, we've been doing that with the platform previews. We think that communicating with developers through the platform preview is a really great way to go. It's we're concerned in some ways about doing, like, if we were to release IE every even 6 or 12 months, enterprises would come and probably hit us over the head with a Nerf bat or something even harder than that. Because how many of you guys build applications for an enterprise? You build it, it runs internally, it's your corporate line of business app, that kind of stuff, right? Like, you roll and change your desktop out very rarely. And if all of a sudden your sites don't work, and I can't go and submit my expense report, I can't go submit my time card, I'm going to be pretty upset. So we need to make sure with enterprises and with consumers and all that, they don't feel the experience of having to change their browser super often.
Enterprise in mind, I do want to talk a little bit about i6. Do you have any plans to give i9 to XP?
Yeah, so IE9 on XP, I wish we could. There's a couple of things that I'll mention. One, XP is 10 years old. If you're still using it, I'm kind of sorry, right? Like, it's as old as ice, thanks for crying out.
70% of the market.
It is, but the numbers are going down very quickly. We've been looking at how, you know, the people are moving from XP to either Vista, or, well, probably not going to Vista, but like, you know, from XP to Windows 7. And we're seeing a lot of folks who are moving there very quickly. And we're working with folks to get there, particularly with enterprises, with consumers, right? Like, if you're a consumer and you bought an XP machine, it's probably time to be thinking about a new computer at 10 years old, right? Like, you bought your computer when you had a baby, right? Your computer's now this big and probably will be kicking my ass or kicking my butt in any code that we'd be writing on stage here, right? Yeah. What's the place of Silverlight? Oh, I like that question too. I'd give you 2 shirts for that question. You know, Silverlight, Flash, those things are never going away, right? They're really important technologies that are very valuable. HTML5 gives us a lot of new tools and a lot of new stuff, but it's not going to give us absolutely everything immediately, right? It's going to take a while until all the browsers everybody's computer supports HTML5, right? Video. We'll show some demos of that. We saw some demos of that earlier. You can't get really cool interactive video where you can do streaming and inserting one video inside another in HTML5 video. There's a bunch of other things that make it really hard for Flash and Silverlight to ever really go away. But we will see a lot of more applications that become HTML5 and Silverlight. Personally, I'm not terribly excited about Flash and Silverlight. I think we can do a lot with HTML5. And we'll see a lot more applications that move to HTML5 in the long term. So, all right, so I'm going to hold off on a few questions. I want to go through and just do a couple more things because I want to get a quick break in here. Actually, you know what? I'll do questions now and then I'll do the break. So you had one.
What about extensibility, like Chrome extensions?
Extensibility in Internet Explorer is an interesting and fun story. We've got a decent extensibility story, though it is kind of complex depending on how you want to write code. We have a really great community of extensions that are available today at IE Add-ons. You can go there and download them. They're written, unfortunately, not in HTML and JavaScript. That's where the story is a little bit more complex. But you can do a lot of really cool and very, very powerful things with them. And so we've got a good story there. And in fact, we were talking earlier, you guys have, what, 200 million users who use your extensions. So there's a huge amount of stuff that you can do with those.
When you show to the user, are you sure you want to use the add-ons? It may slow your browser.
Internet Explorer 9 does have a new, the first time you start up, it looks at what add-ons you have on your machine and how fast or how slow they do stuff to the pages that you're loading, right? Because some browsers or some add-ons will go and make some changes to your page and slow the browser down. Well, we want to make sure people have a fast experience. We have set the bar at a number that we think is pretty reasonable, that makes sure that most add-ons don't get flagged and don't get a kick in the pants, but those browsers or those add-ons that are causing a problem are going to get a kick in the pants, and those guys are going to have to go and do a little bit of work to make their application or their add-ons faster. Yeah.
Basically, if I understood the correctly, I'm going to need to support another platform called IE9. Since you're not going to do anything about IE6, you're just waiting for people to upgrade to.
I don't like the question anymore.
And another one is about the mobile.
Okay. So another platform to support. That's a really interesting question, because yeah, you're going to have IE9 now to support, but how many versions of Chrome do you have to support, and Firefox and Safari and all that?
One.
Mostly one, but they're shipping a new version every couple of weeks without asking you. But not everybody gets that upgrade, right? Go look at some of the. Yeah, you can say no, you don't want to get them.
I don't think that any regular users know
True.
where it is.
So you can turn that off. One of the things that we really want to do is get folks off 6, get folks off 7, off of 8 and on to 9. We're working really hard to do that. One of the big things that we're doing, and you can kind of see the next slide is interoperable. And I'll dive into that much more in depth when we come back. But you shouldn't don't think about Internet Explorer 9 as a new platform. Think about Internet Explorer 9 as the same as Firefox, Chrome, Opera, and Safari.
Yeah, but you're not saying you're trying to move people from IE6, you're trying to move people from Windows XP. And that's entirely different.
We want
from XP skin nice.
Yeah, but it's a different thing to tell a person to install a browser or to install a.
It will take ages.
So we want both. We want people off of XP and onto Win 7, and we want people off of IE6 and onto IE9, right? I'm going to do one there, and then we'll take a break. I have one last t-shirt left, so I apologize. Well, actually, let me see what his question is first, because I may like to do that.
I think I got a good one. When are you going to support HTML5 with Windows Phone 7?
See, that's a question I actually can't give you an answer to. What I'm going to say on that one is I can't give you an answer to that question. I just am going to say watch what the Windows Phone team does. They're a smart team. They're working very closely with the Internet Explorer team. Just keep an eye on what they're doing.
I did the decision not to put IE5 in from 7.
Unfortunately, I can't give you guys a lot of answers about the IE mobile experience on Windows 7. I wish I could. That's the one place I'm gonna run away from kind of quickly. Yeah.
When people now start even looking at short term or in the future, what are the goals of IE9 respectively? If I'm building a framework right now and I want to know whether I can use CSS transformers, 2D or 3D, or a
great question.
foreign object in SVG,
Yep.
how do I know if IE9 will support it in future? Or
So I really like that question because that is exactly what I want to talk about when we come back from the break. So how long do we want to take? So we'll take about a 10 minutes. So, as we start building Internet Explorer 9, one of the things we really focused on was making sure that we've got great support for HTML5, and HTML5 was at the center. You probably heard Steve Ballmer do the whole, we're all in for HTML5, right? I love that line. It's almost as much fun as him running around screaming, developers, 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 developers. Right? I wanted to see him do that. HTML5, HTML5. It doesn't quite go as smoothly, but it will be a fun little video. So HTML5 is really at the center of Internet Explorer 9. We've got a lot of great support for it. And we're focusing our support, making sure that we do a really quality job at implementing it. We're active within the W3C. We're actually co-chairs of the HTML5 working group, the CSS3 working group, and the SVG working group. Inside the HTML5 working group, we're heading up the testing task force because it's really important to make sure that we have a standard test that tests HTML5? How many people have looked at the HTML5 spec? Right, how many people have tried to print it? You don't actually have to print it, but tried to print it. Last I tried to do it, just because I was curious, it's 1,100 pages. All right? That's like over a ream of paper, right? Like a stack of paper printed double-sided, that much. This thing is huge. All right? So this is a fairly big thing. And we want to make sure that as we start implementing stuff, we implement the parts of the spec that are stable and ready to be implemented, that we do a rock-solid job on it. Because you know what? I don't want another IE6. I don't think you guys want another IE6. So we want to make sure that when we go implement something, we implement it really, really well. I'll show you a real quick example of that. Bring up IE. Get Chrome going while we're here. All right, border radius. Okay, rounded corners, all right, dashed border radius. You'll notice that the dashes are all about equal length, right? The spaces between the dashes are all of equal length, right? I would be happy to show my boss in the blue beanie this div, for lack of a better word. I guess that's technically what it is. Now, if I said to my boss, hey, so I put some dashed borders on our company website, and this is what they look like. My boss wouldn't be very happy with me, right? Like, this is not a quality implementation. Now, I'm not saying that other browsers do a crap job implementation, right? But I'm saying with the IE team, we are super focused on making sure that we don't have repeats of the past where you're going to come to me in a year or whenever, 3 days after we ship IE9, and you're going to come to me and say, wow, Pete, there's a couple of bugs and it's time to meet the nerf back, right? Like, I don't want that. I don't think, well, you might want that, but I'll tell you, I don't want that, right? So making sure that we've got a quality job on this. So just a quick overview of the HTML5 or the HTML working group. They create 8 documents, 8 separate documents. In the testing task force, there's over, or not the task force, but the working group, there's over 40 member organizations. So that's companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google, all of those different companies who participate in creating the task force. It's over 400 people who have actively participated. They just had their tech plenary where all of them came to one place and sit down and meet together. But they hold meetings online, over IRC, on the phone, on email. And there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, 1,100 printed pages. Now there's a second version of the document that's going to be a heck of a lot more useful for us as web developers. And it leaves out a lot of the browser implementation stuff. Because really, I don't care when I'm writing my website how the browser should go implement X. I really care about how feature X should work. So before something can reach the final recommendation, all right, the one thing that it has to have is 2 interoperable implementations. Now, how do you know whether you have 2 interoperable implementations from a spec that's 1,100 pages? You need a test suite. And so we're working with the W3C to create that test suite. All right? And you can't do that test suite in 100 tests. You can't do it in a 500 tests. Right? To test the HTML5 spec properly, we're going to need a lot of tests. You can't use something like the acid test where it's 100 tests to go, yep, your browser supports standards or your browser supports HTML5. Right? It would be like going into an English exam, having studied the book Moby Dick, and the final exam question is a true or false that says Moby Dick was a whale, right? Like, it just doesn't, that's silly, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So for us to make sure that we've got a great final recommendation is super important. In fact, you can go check out the test suite that is on the W3C, all right? So let this page load for a sec. It'll take a second. Here we go. unless they changed the test harness on me in the last little while, it should start showing stuff here in a sec. We'll let it run, see if it does. If it doesn't, this is a live test, so you get these things going and changing on a somewhat regular basis. And we'll try it in Chrome, sure. This might be a little on the embarrassing side. But we are still in beta, so I won't feel too guilty about it. All right.
I said that we want to help create tests in Israel to pilot.
Yeah, you know, there's one line I really want to highlight. That line right there. 212 tests, that's not enough. We need your help. So if you want to get involved in the web community, don't go write your own site and create, you know, my HTML5 super cool test.com. Start working with the W3C so we can actually make real progress on test suites. All right?
Can you say more about what's the test, how to build a test, how they do it?
So, to be honest, I've been fairly not involved in that, so I can't really get into that too much. I can say that one of the things, the way that we're participating is, obviously we have an entire test team at Microsoft who's responsible for testing IE and goes, yep, the browser's ready to ship or not, right? So we're taking all of those tests that they use to test our standards compliance in IE, and we're working with the W3C and we're saying, hey guys, here's this set of tests. Now we learned something in the IE8 timeframe because we used the, in the IE8 timeframe, we actually gave all of our CSS 2.1 tests, over 14,000 tests to the W3C. We kind of learned that you can't give them like a lot of tests in one given shot because the W3C, there's not a lot of paid people who work there, right? Like it's a relatively small number. There's a lot of volunteers and people who work for their own company. They have a real job, right? They can't just go and check tests and move them in. So we need to be much more conscientious about how we get those tests into the W3C and how we work together on that. All right. So I'm glad to see that it's not just IE that's not doing this. All right. All right, so this is my closing slide. Let's go have a look at some fun code, because I think this is a lot more fun. All right, open website. I am going to grab this guy. So we talked about earlier the whole fact that web pages, that doc type becomes so much easier. I'm going to show you probably my favorite fact of doc type. Oh. Now, unfortunately, Visual Studio doesn't quite have a lot of HTML5 support at this point, but it does have some. You can download a set of add-ins that will give you IntelliCrat or IntelliSense as you're typing. So you can go through and do that. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't really feel like having any of those.
Is Microsoft working on updating that?
So, you know, look at...
Because it's very old and some of it is
have a look at what we're doing with future versions. We're not talking about, we just shipped VS 2010, so we're not talking about the future.
No, I'm talking for a plugin for, just like the one you have now, just updating it for...
Yep, you can go download that at the Visual Studio add-on.
It's dated and it's not complete. Are you updating it?
I don't know.
Someone?
I don't know. I'm not on that team.
Ah, okay.
Hello? Right? So do you think this page validates or not? Okay, W3C. Yeah, all right. Surprisingly, I'll save us the suspense as we do this because I want to show a bunch of things. That page will do. Oh. Darn it. That page. I think I'm doc type HTML. And all right. I'm just going to cheat a little bit. Here's my recommended, if you're going to go use your pages, All right. Doc type, HTML, put your language in there so that you can make sure that if you've got somebody who's coming in with a screen reader or any kind of accessibility, then their language is appropriately set. Title, make sure you put the character set on there. Notice I don't have to say name or content. I can just say meta, char set, UTF-8.
Doesn't have to be closed.
Sorry?
It doesn't have to be closed.
Doesn't have to be closed. Mentioned earlier, it's not XHTML, it's not XML, so if you want to start doing some funky stuff and writing maybe not well-formed code that is going to be hard to support in the future, you can technically do that. It will validate.
Why is that good?
Why is that good? You're going to have to ask the guys who decided that you could do that. Basically, the short answer is they wanted to make things easier. They wanted to sort of pave the cow paths, is one of the terms that I've heard. Basically, taking things that people are doing today already. Not everybody's using XHTML, so you know what? Let's say that it's not a requirement. You can go and not use that. So that means you don't necessarily need quotes. It means that you can have, in fact, I'll just get there right now. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So I'm going to go grab my video page. So there's a couple of cool things with HTML5 video that I think is pretty neat. No, this is what I want to do. So I've got a video running here. You don't have the audio, you just pretend that there's audio, right, because I didn't plug it in. But, you know, if I want to be able to watch full screen video, I've gone and I've used the CSS opacity property. So I've said, hey, if you're not showing on this element, make it nice and dim so that it's not blocking my video. I can hit toggle full screen. And I just go and make the video nice and big. So you've got some cool things that you can do with HTML5 video to get a better experience in HTML5 video. We can toggle it back and forth, right? All right. So the way I did that, when you click on the toggle, it calls this function. It says, grabs the my video element. It checks to see what the position is. If the position is fixed, we want to take it from unfixed and move it back to relative. So we set it to relative. I set the height and width. Otherwise, I say, hey, position it as fixed, so stick it up in the top. Set the width and height to a particular size. And you've got full screen video. So that way, no matter what size my screen is, I've got full screen video. I'd probably also go in and add an event in there that listens for screen resizes. So that way, if I do make my browser window a little bit smaller, I resize the video. So you'd have an on-load event, or on-resize event there. Here's the other cool one I want to show. So I've gone and created this. So this is, I've got this same HTML5 video, right? And notice I've got the reflection underneath. This is a really neat example of using HTML5 video and using Canvas to go and draw something else. So if I close this guy out so that we can go have a look at the code. So here's my video, right? So there's the video source, just like we had earlier. I'm just using an MP4 video. I haven't put a fallback or anything like that because I want to keep this simple. New line, and then I've got my canvas. All right. Now, in my init, I go and I get a reference to the video. I grab a reference to the canvas, and I grab the canvas 2D context because we need something to go draw on. And once I've done that, I set the width and the height of the video elements and all that. So that way I've got the same size, everything. And then I'm going to say to the canvas context, hey, I want you to translate this guy. So you're just going to move it around a little bit, right, X and Y. And I want to scale it. Now, scaling, I could have made it bigger, I could have made it smaller, but instead what I've done is apply the 1, -1. So 1 doesn't do anything, right? -1 flips it upside down. So now whatever's drawn in the canvas is going to be completely upside down from what I would normally draw, right? And I'm going to go now and create a gradient. So context.create linear gradient, right? And I say, I want the gradient to fill in within this space, and I set the space from the top right, or technically bottom left, because we've flipped it, right? All the way to the height of the canvas. And I'm going to add 2 color stops. First color stop is white that's opaque. Setting the opacity, the alpha transparency channel, A, to 1. All right? Then the second color stop I'm going to add is white again, but setting the the transparency to 0, which means I can completely see through it. So that way, that's where I'm getting that gradient, where at the bottom you can see right through it, at the top you can't see through it. And then I'm going to fill my canvas context with gradient. Then I'm going to add an event listener, right? Because I want to wait until the video is ready to be played, right? Because I don't want the video to start. I can't actually draw anything until the video's played, right? So once the video's been, we get the cam play fired, I'm going to say set interval every 60 milliseconds, and I'm going to call this function draw image. And draw image goes and it grabs the video, and it says, hey video, I'm going to draw you down here, right? And because I'm saying, hey, I'm going to draw you down here, and I'm going to flip you, you get the entire video running upside down. Yep?
Can you please show the example? What's the CPU measurement?
Yeah, that's actually a really fantastic question. I like that question. How about like 6, 7%? Now, why is it 6 or 7%? Most of the other browsers, it's going to be significantly higher. Might not hit 100.
It's compiled.
Not because it's compiled, because it's doing all of this. Exactly. It's manipulating all of these images in the GPU instead of manipulating it on the CPU. So your computer is not like getting all choked up doing any of the video, right? One of the other things is, all right, so realistically, pretty much every GPU that's shipped in the last little while, whether we're talking like, you know, I've got just got a Windows 7 phone, or Windows Phone 7, whether you're using one of those things, right? Whether you're using a netbook, whether you're using a laptop, whether you're using a MacBook, whatever you're using, it's got hardware video decoding built in. Which means if you're using hardware acceleration, you're decoding that video on the GPU. You're not using the CPU to decode your video. It means your video runs that much faster. Now, one of the cool ones, I'm going to just close this guy.
Quick question about the video. What code does this support? Because I remember there was a big talk about it in the iBlog and post on that.
So, good question. What codecs do we support? We support the H.264 video codec out of the box. That's pretty much the industry standard video codec at this point. It's what most folks are using. It's what most tools are compiling to. If you go and create a Flash video or Camtasia or Silverlight, it compiles to H.264. It's what most of the, like I said, the hardware decoding devices have built in. Any device that you've bought within the last number of years, you've already paid a license to the decoding fee, the decoding people for the rights to use that. So it's good to go. That's the big one that we support. We've also said we're going to support WebM if you have the codec installed on your machine. Those are the two big ones that we've said we're going to support. If you go read the actual HTML5 spec, it doesn't say what codecs any browser vendor has to support. It just says, hey, you should be able to support video, just like it says with images. Like if you go read the HTML, probably what, 1 or 2 spec that introduced the image tag, it doesn't say you have to support PNG and GIF and JPEG and all that kind of stuff.
So you're not going to support OGG even if it's installed?
So unlikely. I don't think we've said outright. My guess would be no, but who knows? Somebody might find a way to wire it in. I don't think that we've not announced any plans to do that. So I'm going to just go and all right, I'm going to go show you a real quick thing. So I'm just going to say src equals videos, lat.mp4, autoplay. One of the things that first screwed me up about HTML5, particularly with the video tag, and this may screw you guys up, so I'll give you this warning about it now. Notice I put autoplay in there. I didn't put any parameters on it. I just like, here you go, autoplay. HTML5 allows you to have Boolean attributes. Whether it's there or not depends is the true or false value. So it doesn't matter what value. If you want to just sort of use your standard XHTML coding practices and add a value, right? The attributes are going to be there. You want to be a little bit crazy? Well, you could say, hi, Mom, right? And the autoplay will still happen, or the controls. The controls are exactly the same. Controls equals, yep, right? Like,
What about false?
yeah, so that's the great question. What about false? What happens if I do put false in there? Do they show up or not? Okay, most people are saying no. Binary attribute. The value is there. No matter what you set it to, they're going to show up. All right? So my suggestion to you is do something like that. Set the value to be the name.
Why
All right?
do you need the value?
You don't need it, but if you're going to follow sort of the standard name value pair kind of thing, I would do it. I wouldn't put true in there. And the reason I wouldn't do that is in a couple of years when somebody else comes to look at your code, if they haven't quite figured out the binary attribute, or maybe in like 2 days when somebody looks at your code and is trying to figure out why when they change it to false it doesn't work, which is what I was doing. Yeah, not so much fun. Okay, actually, you know, I'm going to skip this and show one other thing because I think yeah. I love this because this is actually from the HTML5 spec. All right? So in this code, I'm creating I'm grabbing the video element, and I'm going to say, is video supported? So player can play type. I don't provide it with a value. And I just return whether true or false from there. So IE9 supports video. So the value we get back is true. Now the next question I'm going to ask the browser is the MP4 format supported? So I'm actually going to give it a value this time, and I'm going to say can play type video MP4. All right. Now I've said that IE9 can play the MP4 video type. What do you think the answer should be?
Yeah.
Yes? True?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. This is actually in the HTML5 spec. It actually says maybe is a valid answer. Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you wrote a function where your return value wasn't true, it was maybe? Love it, right? Okay, let's get a little bit more specific.
What will I do with maybe?
Great question. Let's get a little bit more specific and let's actually give it the codecs inside the container type we're going to use, which the video and audio codecs we're going to use. What do you think my answer is going to be at this point?
Hey mom.
There we go. Hey mom. I like that. All right. Probably. Wow. I wish I could get away with saying probably to things that need an actual answer. Now, the reason the browsers do this is because, well, you know, videos are actually really complex, right? You can have different encodings of audio and video. You can encode the video in different ways, even using the same encoder. So the browser isn't really 100% sure it can play something until it actually starts trying to play it. So when you get the answer probably back, more than likely you can play it. But there might be something, right? So say for example, it can, but maybe your video quality is so high that on my Windows Phone 7 device, it just can't decode it in hardware fast enough, or on an iPhone or something like that, right? But on a PC, it's perfectly valid to decode it. So there is a reason why having the probably and maybe is valid answers, all right? Yeah?
If I just play another video and now I'm trying, does the browser the opportunity, the possibility to say yes after it knows it can't play?
Nope. Those are the two answers you're ever going to get back.
Nothing is certain.
Nothing is certain. I love it. Isn't that wonderful? Like,
Will you ever get no?
will you ever get no? I believe you will. Let's find out. Video. Let's just say there we go. There's a good audio or video codec, right? So if we try and run this now, is MP4 supported? We get no answer back. So if you get nothing, you can probably count on the browser not supporting the video format that you want. All right. All right. It's 7:35. We were supposed to end at 7. I'll take a couple questions. There's a whole bunch of really cool stuff. What I really want to encourage you guys to do, go to the IE Test Drive site, ietestdrive.com. All right. Grab the Platform Preview 7, which just came out about a week and I guess today's Wednesday, so 2 weeks ago now. Just came out. It's like super fresh. Very fast, has a lot of really cool support. It's got CSS3, 2D transforms. There's a lot of things. There's a couple of things that are worth checking out on this site. One, the developer guide up here. The developer guide goes into all of the things that we have support for today. So if you want to know, hey, what's supported in Internet Explorer 9 as far as CSS and HTML5 and ECMAScript 5, like I didn't even touch CSS3 today. I didn't even touch the changes that happened in JavaScript today that we've done a lot of work on. So go check that. This site works in any browser, all right? Now it's maybe not going to work so well in IE6, but I think that's a little bit fair, right? You can go try doing demos. Like try running some of these different demos side by side and see how they work in i9 Platform Preview 7 and in Firefox or Chrome or Safari. It doesn't hurt to try it out. One of the biggest things that I think that I really want to just sort of say to you guys is, look, IE9 is not IE6. You may have some really painful memories of IE6. It's a whole different ballgame. It's a different ballgame than IE8 for that matter. If you're worried about like, hey, compatibility, how's my site going to work? Is it going to work? Go try Platform Preview 7 with your sites. Remember, there are still some things. Go file bugs. If you've got a site that you need to make sure it works when IE9 ships, or that you've got customers who are coming in with IE9 and it doesn't work, you can use the XUA compatible tag to force IE9 to render with the IE8 rendering engine. So that way you don't have to worry about it until you're ready to do the testing and you're ready to make whatever changes you need to get the site to work in IE9. The other thing that you can try and do if it doesn't work if your site doesn't work in IE9, make sure that you're giving IE9 exactly the same markup that you're giving Firefox, Opera, Safari. Make sure you're not giving it some IE8 hacky code because you knew that there was this one problem in IE8 and you're trying to get around it. So give it the stuff that you give all the other standards compliant browsers. We've got great support for this stuff and it's a really exciting time because we're going to be able to build some really cool websites that do some really awesome stuff. With that, I'm going to take some questions, and I haven't tried running this in a little while, but, really cool site. So thank you, guys. I'll open it up to questions. Yeah? Yes.
The other one is, if I want to open a bug, how do I know when and if it's fixed?
So developer tools, real quick. We've expanded the developer tools in Internet Explorer 9, some great new stuff in the F12 developer tools. Two things I'll highlight real fast. Bring up the platform preview because there's some new things in the developer tools there. One is the new network tab, which allows you to say start capturing, go make a web request. You can see all of the requests. You want to go in and get the details on a particular request. You can see the headers, the body, the response headers. The other cool thing that you can do in here, if you go over to script. Now, how many of you guys have tried to debug minified JavaScript? It's kind of not, you can't, right? How about saying format JavaScript? Now, this is not such a great example because there's no formatted JavaScript there. Control-O, ESPN.com, because I know they have a whole bunch. Lots of new stuff in the developer tools. So what was the second part?
The bugs. I don't know.
So when you file a bug on the Connect site or you provide feedback on the Connect site, you can actually see all of the feedback and our responses to it. You can see when it gets resolved, how it gets resolved. So you can track that stuff yourself and you can see what's going on. That one's... I'm going to turn that off so we can actually see something that is. All right. Do not alter anything below that line. I love that, right? Like, because that's the first line of your JavaScript, and that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Format JavaScript. There you go. All right. Now, it's not smart enough. We can't see into your head to give the variables their proper names back, but at least you can format the JavaScript into something machine readable. Other questions, thoughts, comments?
What about the editor? If you're not able to edit specific tags?
You should be able to edit specific tags. I'll switch back to the regular developer tools because I can get them pinned at the bottom here. Let me just pin these guys. So I could say, hey, go grab something by element. I'll grab downloads. I can expand this out. I can change downloads to awesome downloads. Right, so you can do that. You can go change the attributes and properties.
No, if you want like the Firefox, if you want to specific tag like href or div.
You want to go, so you want to find all the hrefs? Yeah. You can actually do it with CSS query selectors. Go here to the search box and type in a CSS3 query, CSS3 selector, and you can actually go and do it that way. So if I say...
so you cannot get the focus on the tag you want?
I'm not sure if you can or not.
You get the old code.
Sorry?
You get the old code when you choose the edit.
When you choose...
Try to edit go to the tabs edit.
To which one?
No.
Okay, you know what? Why don't we come see me after and we can dive into this one up here. Yeah.
Will IE9 support the toolbar extensions?
Will IE9 support toolbar extensions? So you can build those today. If you go to IE add-ons, you can download a whole bunch. And if you go to the IE Developer Center at mscn.com/IE, we've got some good documentation about how to write them there.
So you can get your toolbar.
Yep, yeah, you can do that. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Guys, please try Internet Explorer 9. Toda. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you, guys.